So as we do with all meetings, we open with prayer, the most important thing we do here. So I'm going to go ahead and invite Gabrielle up to the stage, and if everybody could stand, we'll go ahead and open in prayer.
Father God, thank you so much for this night. Thank you, Lord, that you are sovereign over all. Thank you, God, that nothing is unknown to you and that nothing happens to us that hasn't first passed through your hands. So, Lord, I just praise you for coming in the flesh, in the name of Christ, God, and for the finished work that was done on the cross for the forgiveness of our sins. Lord, I ask that as we go out in this world, Father, that we would bear light and be good stewards of the time and the talent and the treasures that you've given us. I thank you that every single person here tonight, you called to be here, Lord. And I ask that they would leave feeling empowered and encouraged and know that you love them deeply and that you have mighty plans to use them. So thank you, Father, for all that you've done and all you continue to do. And God, I also lift up just the next generation who's represented even right here, God, and I ask that you would create bold and brave and fearless leaders, that these children would be taught the truth and that they would walk in the truth, God, and so that this country would still have a faithful remnant, Lord, and that they would stand strong knowing that you have called them to lead well. So I thank you, Lord, for all that you do and all that you continue to do. In Jesus' name, amen. All right, and y'all stay standing. These guys are going to lead us in our pledges tonight. So let's see. This is short.
And now for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Now the Texas pledge.
Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state under God, one and indivisible. Y'all stay here. We're all going to sing the anthem together, okay? Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets' red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
All right, y'all stay standing really quick. Our fearless leader, Julie McCarty, she's not here at this meeting, but it's her birthday today. And so we're going to do a quick happy birthday. We're going to sing, and we've got our videographer here. She's going to video and send it to her with us singing her happy birthday. All right, so I'm not going to start it. I'm going to let our singer start it and get us started in happy birthday.
Happy birthday to you.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Julie. Happy birthday to you. All right.
Awesome. Y'all can be seated. Thank you. Okay. All right. So, we're going to go ahead and we've got some helpers to pass the hat around. Again, we rely on your donations. And so if you are willing to donate, we certainly appreciate it. Everything we do is based on your help getting this facility and our great speakers and all that. So any help you can provide would be amazing. While we do that, do we have any candidates here that I know we're at the end of elections, so I don't anticipate any tonight. So let's go ahead and we're going to go ahead and get started on the announcement video, and then we'll go from there.
Welcome to Summer in Texas. If our summers don't make you Texas tough, we don't know what will. But hey, if that's what it takes to keep the weak, whining liberals out of our state, we'll take it. We've got a lot planned for this summer, so listen up. We'll be taking our True Texan certification classes to Katy and to Granbury. Plus, at the end of the summer, we take our Constitution boot camp to the RGV, Johnson County, Hill Country, Rockwall, Kaufman, Brazos, and the Woodlands. If none of those locations are near you, it's worth a drive to get to one. These classes are key to making sure you're a trained activist. Remember, when you call yourself a true Texan, we want it to mean something. So just go to our website, click on the Certified True Texan program to learn more, and sign up. Last month, we took a large group of true Texans to the top of Texas. Check out this fun video highlighting the trip. Here are some pics of fun things that true Texans do around the state when they gather. Why do we do this? Why do we put so much effort into creating social events? What do hikes and dinners have to do with saving Texas? Well, it's simple. When we build community, we are more committed to each other and to the cause. We're creating friendships within our ranks, and don't you think it's important to have a battle buddy by your side to pick you up when you're down? We do. Make an effort to join us for the next social activity. You'll find friends and like-minded people to take this journey with. In fact, we create a special calendar just for social activities. Here's June's calendar. We'll be excited to see you at the next gathering. Now let's talk a bit more about our calendar. We just transitioned to a new format, and we want to make sure you know how to navigate it. Our friends at Pale Horse have put together this great how-to video to guide you along. Check it out.
Hey guys, here's a quick tutorial on how to navigate through the new calendar system online. First, you'll go to the website, and then you'll click on either Events or the top right option that says Calendar. Either one of those will bring you to this Events Monthly page, which will have a layout of a calendar, and it will show you all the meetings and social events happening that month. Say you'd like to know more about what's going on May 8th, click over here, and underneath all of those meetings listed, it'll say +3 more. There's more events going on than what will fit on the calendar, so then it will pull all those up here for you. If you'd like to know more information on a specific meeting, just click on the title, and it'll bring you to another page full of information. To go back to that calendar, all you have to do, the top left, the red icon that says calendar, click on it and it'll bring you back to the main calendar. If you'd like to know more what's going on a specific satellite, all you need to do is just click it in the search option, and then it'll come up everything that's going on in Tarrant County. If you want to get more specific, if you'd like to know meetings only, you can click over here and put monthly meetings, and there you go. As well as social events, just change it to social events, and then it will list all those events in Tarrant County. If you'd rather it be listed, to the top right, there's a bulleted icon. You can click on that, and then it'll show all of those listed here. Okay, y'all, so it's a little bit different on your phone. So you'll go to the top right icon, click on either events or calendar. Either of those will bring you to the same page, just like the website, which is our events monthly calendar page. If you'd like more information on a certain date, just click on that date, scroll up, and you'll see everything for that day and the different satellites. Click on the title if you'd like more information, and it'll bring you to another page full of information for that specific event. If you check out underneath the time listed, it'll have an option to add this to your Google Calendar, which is a fantastic feature. Go back if you'd like to look at a specific county only. Click on May 2023, and then you can type in, say, Tarrant County. If you'd like to know meetings, just select underneath, go to meetings or either social events. You can also have the option to have it listed. The top right icon is a bulleted little picture, and you click on that, and then everything will be listed for you. It's super easy, and if you have any questions, just shoot us a message. We'd love to help you out. Thanks.
Every month, we like to recognize one of our top volunteers, and this month, the honor goes to Natalie eBay. Natalie lives in Williamson County, but when she heard that the Hill Country group in Austin needed a registration person, she said, I can do that. The Austin meeting's about an hour drive from her home during rush hour, but she makes the trip and takes care of registration at Hill Country every second Monday. Then on every third Tuesday, Natalie also attends the Williamson County meetings. In addition to faithful attendance at meetings, Natalie has been at the Capitol with us every Tuesday since the beginning of session, and sometimes on other days too. Natalie has soaked up all the information and training that we've given her and put it into action. She testifies on as many bills as she can schedule, often staying till midnight or later, and her passion and professionalism are impressive. Thank you, Natalie, for your spirit. Would you like to be a volunteer for your local True Texas project? Trust me, every location needs more help. The truth is, most people are not comfortable stepping up to volunteer. They feel like someone else could do it better. They wonder how they could possibly be of use. We love humility, but hear us when we say, we need you. None of the jobs are difficult, and most only take 2 hours per month or less. We ask for help all the time, but it seems like folks only say yes when we go to them directly and ask them by name. Come on, folks. How practical is that? It's not. Just know if you're willing to step up, we will find a place to put you to work. When we all work together doing small tasks, great things are accomplished. Maybe you've got a great smile and you can greet folks at the door, or maybe you're organized and can help at registration. Some roles are as easy as passing the hat or holding up a time card to keep the speaker on track. Do you have a gift for gab? Well, we'd love for you to make calls welcoming first-time guests and inviting them back, or reach out to those that we haven't seen in a few months. We need people comfortable at the mic to lead prayer, introduce speakers, or say the pledges. Do you spend time on social media? You could help with our advertising by sharing invites to our meetings. Or maybe you're the hostess with the mostest and like to have a great time. Why not jump in as a social events coordinator to help folks connect? Some people prefer to be behind the scenes, setting up the room or putting out signs or running audiovisual. There's something for everybody, a wide variety of tasks, and we're sure there's one for you. We like to have at least 2 people in each role, so don't be shy. Contact your co-director tonight and become a leader in our Army. And as a special treat this fall, we've got a fantastic all-inclusive leadership retreat planned for our teams, and you'll be excited to attend. Make sure to sign up now so that you'll be included. With June here, the Texas legislative session has officially ended. Since we have to create these videos nearly a month before you watch them, it would be impossible to provide you with recorded summary. However, I've put together a few bullet points to be shared during our local announcements. Thanks for watching these announcements, and now listen up to see what your Texas representatives did or did not accomplish this session. See you next month.
Okay. I want to pull up the lights. Awesome. Woo! Okay. So if you guys got a flyer on the way in, we were passing them out. If you didn't get one, you can raise your hand. But it's an announcement flyer of things that are coming up. And then on the back of it, it has the great things that happen, yes, and the not so great things that happen during session. So I'm not sure we had somebody who had them passing them out, and we will get those to you. Is Charlie in here? I don't see him. Okay, so we'll get those to you. Normally we put them on the seats, but this time we were trying to catch people when they were walking in. So on the back you can see there's so they called a special session. Everybody's kind of confused of what's going on. So stay plugged into True Texas Project. Fran does an amazing job of keeping us updated on the latest and what's going on and where we are with all things with the session. She went down every single Tuesday this past for the 88th session. So that, and I'll just show you, that's what's this flyer here. So on one side it's announcements, on the back side it says 88th session wrap up, and it's a great summary of the session. We're going to go ahead and if we have anybody here that went through the True Texas course where you completed the 5, and we've got some of those flyers. So if you want to raise your hand again, Charles will pass those out to you. Great, thanks Charles. Is Mary Washburn here, Brian Bledsoe, Gary McFadden, and Gina Butcher? If you can make your way up here. These are our friends that, is anybody here? All right, Gary, yay, congratulations. So Gary completed the 5 courses. Congratulations, yeah. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Great. Oh, here, let's get a picture real quick. All right. Yes. Yay, okay. Congratulations. And okay, awesome. Well, okay, well, congratulations to Mary Washburn. Yeah, thank you so much. Okay, sounds good. So for anybody that doesn't know, these are our 5 courses where they're offered all throughout the state of Texas. And I'm sorry, Gina, I didn't see you. Okay, Gina Butcher, congratulations. Yay. Let's get a quick. And you're welcome to, they're incredibly informative topics from how to run a campaign to how to get involved and testify in hearings down in Austin, all sorts of things. So in July, I believe, or August, July, it's coming to Granbury. That's going to be the closest location. And you'll want to get yourself there. It's all on the website, but it's really informative. It's good stuff. So we're going to go ahead and do a giveaway. Susan Griffith is here. Can everybody say hi to Susan? She is part of our corporate office, and she brought a TTP shirt tonight for the person that brought the most guests, first-time guests. So if you brought one new person, can you raise your hand? Okay, we have one person and one new person. Okay. Did anybody bring 2 new people tonight? Anybody bring 2 new people? Okay. All right. Well, we'll go ahead and get both of y'all a shirt. Yeah. Thank y'all. And, you know, yay. Well, this is a great time to invite people. I know we just finished elections. However, there's a lot still going on with session and just a lot in general. The Paxton stuff, did that fire anybody else up? The whole Paxton vote? Yeah, me too. Yeah. So invite your friends, get them here. All these meetings are really informative and you get involved. And so I would encourage you to do that. And I will say I've got some TTP business cards I'm going to put on the table back there. If you know somebody who's interested, pick up one of these and just hand it to them. If you're out, I know people have been to the grocery store and want, TTP information to hand to somebody else. So grab a business card and you're welcome to take those with you. A couple of local announcements tonight. We have a meetup at Chili's after this meeting, a great time to socialize. We had a great crew of people that came and brought their dinners before and had fellowship time, so thank y'all for coming to that. We have our coffee meetup on June 17th, I believe. Is that this coming Saturday over here at Kindred Coffee? Always a great time with Patriots, so come on out, bring your friends. We have a dinner social on June 24th at 6 p.m., and I'm not sure the location on that, but again, it's posted. So lots of ways to get involved. And then lastly, but not least, I want to go ahead and invite Annette Presley up here. So tonight, my name is Hillary Rabler, by the way. If I haven't met you, I hope I can meet you after the meeting. But tonight is my last meeting here as co-director for TTP. I have absolutely loved serving for the past 2 years as co-director, and the Lord has called me to use my gifts with my children in our homeschooling co-op, and so I'm going to be moving into that area, and Annette is going to replace me. So y'all go ahead and give a hand for Annette Presley. So she'll be working closely with Sheila Franklin. Sheila is not here tonight, but the two of them are your go-tos for all things Tarrant County TTP. If you're interested in volunteering, if you have a question, whatever it is, these are your girls. So thank you for serving. We're excited. All right. Okay. So, and you know what, Annette, I'm going to invite you up. She's going to announce our main speaker for tonight.
Okay, I will admit, I don't know a whole lot about Texas. I've heard of it. And so I am really excited to hear the speaker, Dan Miller, tell us how we can get ourselves out of a very sticky situation. So, Dan, take it away.
Super, thank you. Howdy, everyone. Sorry I was late. I was hanging out back there on the backsliders row. It's okay, fun, folks. I'm just trying to have a little fun here. So let me begin by thanking you guys so much for the invitation to come speak. We're going to have a great conversation tonight, and by conversation I mean I'm going to talk an awful lot about something that I love. And that's Texas. And you're going to get to ask me some questions at the tail end because I know that people absolutely love to fact check me. But I'm going to start off by telling you a little bit about who I am so you understand where I'm coming from and how this is even an issue and why in the world are we even talking about this now. So for those of you who don't know, my name is Daniel Miller. I'm president of an organization called the Texas Nationalist Movement. And for anyone who is afraid of that word nationalist, please don't be. Don't let the progressives and the neo-Marxists write your dictionary because they're the same people that tell you that a woman can be a man and a man can be a woman, aren't they? So don't let them write your dictionary. Because the textbook definition is someone who supports national independence, independence for their nation. And who in the wide, wide world of sports has as their national slogan, we're number 2? Right? Who in the world says, man, I want to be as subservient as possible to some other nation or group of nations or organization? Nobody that I know that loves liberty, do they? No, they don't. So, the TNM was founded back in 2005, but my personal history goes all the way back on this issue to August 24th, 1996, somewhere around 2 o'clock in the afternoon, if you want to get specific. And Judge Andy back there, it's so weird for me to call him Judge Andy. By the way, for those of you who don't know, he and I went to high school together. So I literally have known him longer than I've known anyone else in this room. So if he has a question at any point, he gets dibs. I just want y'all to understand that, right? But in Tyler, Texas, August 24th, 1996, I crossed what I refer to as the proverbial line in the sand. It was the moment that I transitioned from being a person who said that the solution to the challenges that we face politically, culturally, and economically lie in Washington, D.C., and instead reside in the hands of the people of Texas. And I'm going to tell you two things that really spurred me to the conclusion to dedicate my life to this cause. Oddly enough, the first one was a book that probably no one here has heard of, called Global Paradox. It was a book written by a man named John Nesbitt. John Nesbitt wrote, he had been a New York Times bestseller, a couple of books, Megatrends 2000. Some of you older folks may have heard of him. But he had written this book called Global Paradox. It was ostensibly about the telecommunications revolution, talking about how the fact that the devices that I see in so many hands was going to revolutionize the world, in that it was going to make us economically interdependent on one another. We'd be able to do business with one another no matter where we lived. And the paradox was that it was turning the world's smallest players into some of the largest. And the thesis of his book was quite simple. The global trends point overwhelmingly toward economic interdependence on one hand and political independence on the other. And he cited a statistic in that book that said this, that at the end of World War II, there were roughly 54 recognized, fully sovereign, self-governing countries around the world. And by the time of the book's publication, there were 192. You see, those countries did not fall from space. The earth didn't get any bigger. They were people like us who believed that they just happen to be the best people to govern themselves. I mean, revolutionary when you talk about it in terms like that here, but globally, it was successful 140 some odd times before I ever even paid attention to it in a paperback book that had a little holographic earth on the cover that still sits on my bookshelf today. But that was not why I read the book, but it did help me put my frustration with the federal system and its unfixability into a proper context. But really the text that put me over the edge, that had me cross that proverbial line in the sand, that ultimately led me to dedicate my life to this cause, came not from some paperback novel, no nonfiction book, no academic treatise. Instead, it came from the Texas Constitution. Article 1, Section 2 says these words: all political power is inherent in the people, and all free governments are founded on their authority and instituted for their benefit. And it says that the people of Texas stand pledged to the preservation of a Republican form of government and subject to that limitation only. They, the people, have the inalienable right to alter, reform, or abolish their government in such manner as they may think expedient. Don't you love those words? Don't you love those words? I mean, seriously, that's in our Constitution. You know how many other state constitutions have those words in it? Not many. doesn't mean they don't enjoy those same rights. It just means that Texans are a bit brassy, enough to put our Bill of Rights in Article 1 and to basically restate the Jeffersonian principles and the Declaration of Independence in a very succinct way in Article 1, Section 2. And I can tell you, out of all of the governing documents that I've studied around the world, I believe that those words are about the purest expression of self-determination in any governing document that I have ever seen. And folks, that's our legacy. That's the law that we live under. That means that every elected official in Texas, when they put their hand on a Bible, or perhaps if you're one of those folks from another party, on a comic book, that literally happened, the comic book thing. Wow. They jam their right hand in the air and they swear an oath, not just to the U.S. Constitution, but to the Texas Constitution. And what is the job of government if not to protect our inalienable rights and our liberty? Am I right? So that day, I crossed the proverbial line in the sand. Much like when Travis drew his line on the 11th day at the Alamo and laid out the situation for the defenders and said, this is what's happening, but here's the thing, if you want to leave, you can leave. But I'm going to stay here and do my duty. And anyone else who crosses that line pledges to stay here with me. And as the story goes, they all did. And the beautiful part about this story of the line in the sand, it is truly a metaphor for the moment of decision that we're at, not just as individual Texans, but also as Texans collectively, as a self-governing independent nation state that doesn't seem to be very self-governing, has given up its national character as it continues to be engineered from afar. And let's be honest, because of federal policy is becoming less and less of an actual state and more of an administrative subdivision or a province of 2.5 million unelected federal bureaucratic masters in the Washington District of Criminals. Am I right? Uh-oh, I think I'm going to go there tonight. Now, I made a mistake at the very beginning because normally I like to set my expectation on this conversation and say that a good time will be had by most. But I think that I'm in a room full of people that are going to understand the message tonight. And I'm pretty sure that there are some of you in this room right now that already know all about the Texas issue. You're ready and have been for some time to see Texas become a self-governing independent nation. I'm sure there are some of you in the room tonight that are a bit on the bubble. You got questions, but you know in your heart you're kind of being pulled that way, but you're conflicted about some things. And I'm pretty sure there may be somebody in the room who would throw a can of peas at me if they thought they could get away with it. That was a very specific can, wasn't it? Well, hopefully, I will satisfy 2/3 of you tonight. So let me talk about this issue, about what led to the foundation of the TNM, because I think it's very instructive so you understand that tonight, it's not just about a personal motivation for me. It's not about just me trying to get this thing done, although I did pledge, and let's be honest with you, there are an awful lot of people out there that commit to do things and don't follow through when things get tough, right? And my pledge was to see Texas become a self-governing independent nation, to work to make it happen, or until the grave digger pats me in the face with a shovel, whichever comes first. Now, I'm sure that some could argue that indeed it looks as though I have been patted in the face with a grave digger shovel. That would not be a very nice thing to do. May I remind you, we're in a house of the Lord. Okay. But from that moment, it was about understanding the issue of Texas in the context of self-determination. So think about this. If 140 other self-governing independent nations sprang up post-World War II, is it that they had something that we didn't? Were their economies any better than ours? Were their systems any less repressive? Or, many of them were more repressive, obviously. Were their people just made of hardier stuff? Did they have better resources? What was it? What was the magic thing that gave them the ability to govern themselves? Now, I could tell you from a Texas standpoint, we can obviously make an economic case of how we could stand as an independent nation and probably why we should. We are the 9th largest economy in the world. I suspect, depending on how the rest of the global economy goes, we will be number 8, probably sooner rather than later. We could make the economic case that the relationship with the federal government is really, really upside down for us. You see, when we understand that Texans overpay $103 to $160 billion annually into the federal system, it makes a lot of sense for us to essentially save that money and stay here. So when people when we're talking about Texas, when they say, what are you going to do without that federal money? Well, I say things like, eliminate property tax. Because every dime that comes back into Texas from the federal government started in your pocket. And then it goes to Washington, D.C., to be chewed up by administrative costs or redistributed to other states for their failed social experiments. And then it gets sent back here with strings attached. It gets sent back to our schools that say, you don't get the money unless you teach our kids that gender is sort of fluid. Or that the founding fathers were a bunch of slavers and drunks and crooks. And that the Alamo was a battle for white supremacy, because let's be honest, that's what they're talking about in the schools. And it's being subsidized by us. But that's not the only money that comes back with strings attached. Let's be honest, every federal dollar that comes back comes with strings attached, doesn't it? Every dollar that comes from the federal government comes with strings attached. And so they go to our legislators and they say, well, here's the thing, if you want any of this money back, you have to pass these programs that mirror the programs that we have on the federal level. And we're going to give you somewhere between 40 to 60% of the funds. But the same people whose pockets we tapped, you got to go back to them and you got to get more money to match. And so our legislature has been relegated to doing 3 things. Not my words, by the way. The words of more than one state representative who says that their job has been relegated to medicate, educate, and incarcerate. And he ain't wrong. Sure, they could do more. But unfortunately, Uncle Sugar's got those money talons in them. And they kind of do what Washington, D.C. wants them to do. In fact, many of our electeds in Austin treat service to the people of Texas in the Pink Dome down there in Austin like it was joining a AAA ball club, the minor leagues. And that's sad. But sure, we could make the economic case, talk about all kinds of things like how we're rendered destitute practically, how 65 to 85% of our take-home pay value evaporates by a little something called federal regulatory accumulation that causes a 2% compression of GDP annually that compounds, that destroys the bridge from poverty to prosperity, that sets the bar so high that there are people in the in the inner cities and the rural poor that would rather be on welfare than start a business, because it's easier to get a government check than it is to jump over the hurdles to become a productive member of society. This is what the federal government has created. So we can make the economic case. We can make the political case. We could talk about how effectively Texans have lost their right of self-government. So we've lost our right of local self-government, and that brings me to Article 1, Section 1 of the Texas Constitution. You see, I talked about Article 1, Section 2, but Article 1, Section 1 is quite interesting because it begins with the words that Texas is a free and independent state. But it also goes on to say that the perpetuity of the Union depends on the right of local self-government, unimpaired to all the states. And I believe we can make a very solid case for how our right of local self-government has been impaired. Whether it's suffocated under 180,000 pages of federal laws, rules, and regulations, or the fact that any decision that we make here as Texans could be overridden at the stroke of a pen by an unaccountable, unelected federal judge, one of those 2.5 million civil servants, or President Potato Head with his 4-ink pen sitting at the Oval Office. We've lost our right of self-government. It's impaired. If we all agreed on a single issue, 100% of us, let's say there's some issue you could even get Sheila Jackson Lee and Chip Roy to agree on. 100% of us in Texas could vote for an issue. And as long as we stay in the federal system, it can be overridden at the stroke of a pen. That's math, folks. And that's the system that we live in. In this political chaos, I say chaos, but honestly, it's not chaos, it's by design, has led us into a situation where every single solitary month, more illegal aliens cross the Texas-Mexico border than the number of Allied troops that landed on the beaches of Normandy at D-Day. It has led the chief of the Border Patrol Union to officially declare, or publicly declare, that the cartels are in operational control of the border. It's led to a flood of fentanyl in our cities, enough to kill every man, woman, and child on the soil. It's led to Texas becoming one of the top states for human and sex trafficking. And what we get instead, the federal government turning the taps on, preparing Title 42 so they could, getting rid of it so they can essentially process them faster, opening processing centers on the other side of the border to go ahead and process the paperwork to let the flood continue. And it's creating a devastating effect on our communities. What is our state solution? Well, we sort of maybe kind of got a declaration of invasion out of the governor, but not really. The legislative one died because it was a political hot potato. And frankly, they didn't want to butt up against the federal government. So when we talk about that we could do all these things, we could declare an invasion, we could deploy the troops, we could do all these things, understand that the hesitation is that we have weak-willed and brutish politicians in Austin that are afraid to stand up for your rights and for your sovereignty. So, the trail leads back to the federal government. We could talk, so as we looked at these independence movements around the world and the success that they had, what we saw beyond a shadow of a doubt was that not a single one of them had something that we didn't. In fact, we were better suited with a stronger spirit, with more resources. We were way ahead of the starting line. But we lacked one thing. And it was hidden there in Article 1, Section 2. All political power is inherent in who? Ooh, that's going to require a do-over because that didn't sound very powerful, and that's just how I roll because I have the microphone. So let's try that again. All political power is inherent in who? And who are we? So guess who is stopping us from becoming a self-governing independent nation? It's us. Now, I got to tell you, that's a real hard pill to swallow. It was for me at the time, because that means that ultimately our fate and our future is in our hands. But you know what? That is the best thing about being a free people, is you have responsibility for your destiny. You get to write the next chapter in Texas history. It's being written right now. And with that in mind, in 2005, we founded the organization. At the moment that we did that, the Texan issue, which it wasn't called that then, but the Texan issue was polling in single digits of support. Now, here's the good news. Support for Texas independence has always polled higher than the approval rating of the United States Congress, which, right, they poll somewhere generally right above or below leprosy. So it's kind of a low watermark, am I right? I'm going to trip over this. I better move it. But from that moment to this, what we have found is this. The people of Texas want to reclaim their right of self-government. Not only have we had the Texas Independence Referendum Act filed twice, there are two planks currently on the Republican Party of Texas platform, planks 33 and planks 225, calling for the legislature to put the issue to a vote. Survey USA 2022, right after the Republican convention, did a poll. They surveyed 8 states. We were one of them. And here's what they found in Texas. We were the only state out of those 8 that was above water on the independence issue, above 50%. But the shocker was not that we were just above 50%, because we've been above 50% for about 5 years now. The real shocker was this. If Texas goes to a vote tomorrow, 60% of Texas voters and 66% of likely voters would vote in favor. So if you're a Texas supporter in here, congratulations. You're not just a majority, you're pretty doggone near the supermajority. And I gotta tell you, it's a weird spot for me who's been an underdog for quite some time. As I've told people before, it only took 20 years to become an overnight success. And I'm okay with that, because you understand this issue is not about whether I want Texas. I can go make the case for Texas all day long about when people say crazy things like, well, you can't do that, it's unconstitutional. Cool, for something to be unconstitutional, it's got to be prohibited in the Constitution, right? Like, I'm in a room full of people who know the Constitution. You better get excited for that one. If it's not prohibited to a state in the Constitution, it's not unconstitutional, right? So Article 1, Section 10 lists everything states are prohibited from doing. Guess what's not in that list? Take a wild guess. Leaving, withdrawing, turning in our membership card. Well, good thing he's in the ground and I'm standing here, right? I get a little prickly when that name comes up, as you might imagine. But that being said, all of the opposition to this, I can argue this issue all day long about why this is the best course of action, but understand that any discussion about whether or not Texas is a good thing is totally academic. because you will have no real discussion on the issue until the people of Texas get to vote on it. Until it goes on a ballot and the people of Texas analyze this thing up one side and down the other and investigate the pros and the cons. Spoiler alert, there's no cons. We'll have a big, big debate. And then at the end of that debate, the people of Texas will walk into the polls and they will answer this simple question. Should the state of Texas reassert its status as an independent nation? It's a question that we should be asking. And understand that it's not just some hope, wish, or desire for me to put it on a ballot. Understand that it's actually your right to have it on the ballot. You see, when I quoted Article 1, Section 2, I emphasized a very important word, and that word was inalienable. You see, refresher, for those that I have bored into tears since the very beginning, it says this: they, the people, have at all times the inalienable right to alter, reform, or abolish their government in such manner as they may think expedient. Now, some people may say that's that's a bunch of flowery words, but let's focus in on the inalienable part. Who here could tell me some other rights that you think are inalienable? Give me some. Throw them to me. Those are good ones. Would we say that the right to keep and bear arms is inalienable? I think I'm in one of those rooms. Right to keep and bear arms is inalienable. How about freedom of speech? Inalienable. How about freedom of religion? Inalienable. Freedom of assembly? Inalienable. Well, I want you to think about how poorly you would react if an elected official at any level whatsoever decided one day that your right to keep and bear arms could be trampled on. That you could be completely denied your right to keep and bear arms, and you've done nothing wrong. You're a law-abiding citizen. You love your country, you love your state. But one day they come to you and say, hey, you know that inalienable right to keep and bear arms? Nope. Or what about this? What if an elected official came to you and padlocked the door on this church and said, you're not allowed to worship according to the dictates of your conscience? Guessing you would react poorly to that, right? I stopped asking about how people would react to the right to keep and bear arms when I kept hearing about boat accidents. Some of you are going to think about that later tonight and crack up when you're in bed, I'm just saying. But you take any of those rights you think of as inalienable, and think about how upset you would be if that right was denied to you. And understand, your right to decide your political future is just as inalienable. Now, some out there may contest and say that even having the vote or talking about this issue is about the most un-American thing you can do, and trust and believe. If anyone wants an exploration of all the things Texas supporters can be called, I will forward my email to you for a couple of days. But this is what I would contend. I would contend simply that America and the United States of America are not the same thing. America is those things that we have thought of as the values, the preservation of a constitutional republican form of government, the respect for individual rights and liberties. You know, there's a reason that people around the world refer to Texas as the America of America, because we embody those things that people around the world think of as America. Opportunity, freedom, prosperity, the government that governs best governs least, the rule of law, all of those things we think of as America. That's America. But the United States of America is a political and economic union with a smattering of a postal convention and a mutual defense compact. It is an organization that is governed by a document called the United States Constitution that lays out exactly the way that that membership organization is supposed to operate, and is supposed to be administered by a thing called the federal government that has very, very limited functions, authority, and power to act on the behalf of the member states of that union, and has, in fact, disregarded its own mandate, shredded its own constitution, and has become the greatest enemy of the thing that we refer to as America that we have seen since the fall of the Soviet Union. America and the United States of America are not the same. And the irony of ironies, the position that we are in, is that to preserve one, we have to withdraw from the other. If we indeed want to preserve what we think of as America, then the federal system can't be a part of the picture. You understand that there is no reforming federal government. The federal government is terminally broken. How many times have we heard every 2 years or 4 years we're treated to a brand new political messiah who comes in and says, I will turn this ship around, I will fix this. And it never gets fixed. Do you realize that today, your personal share of the federal debt just topped $250,000? $250,005.38. Congratulations. That also accounts for your children, some of you for your grandchildren, and that figure only continues to go up. If we continue to allow this to happen, it is tantamount to fiscal child abuse. And some of you may still be on the bubble. Some of you still may be concerned about whether or not this is the right step to take. And for you, I will reframe it in a way that for me made all the difference in the world. You see, as you can imagine, and as I am sure to experience here when we go into Q&A, I get asked every question under the sun about Texas. What's going to happen to Social Security? What's going to happen to my hockey team? Will our sports teams be able to play in the NCAA? What about veterans benefits? What are we going to do about currency? What about? And the requirement and the expectation has always been an excruciating level of specificity. Because anything less, for a lot of people, flunks the idea. But then I started asking a question of my own. And it's a question that I will ultimately give to each of you tonight. For those of you that are on the bubble, I want you to think about this really hard. We're going to play a thought exercise. I want you to imagine right now that Texas was already a self-governing independent nation. A nation among nations, like 200 others around the globe. Self-governing in every respect. We had control over our own immigration and border policy. We had control over our own monetary and taxation policy, our own currency. We had our own embassies and passports, our own military, our own defense policy. We had everything that those 200 other countries around the world have. And instead of listening to me blather on tonight about Texas becoming a self-governing independent nation, instead, you had someone up here selling you on why you should give it all up and join the union. Imagine what that case would look like. But I'll break it down and make it simple for you. Understanding everything you know about the federal government right now, tomorrow, would you vote to join the union? I think I just gave some people some things to think about. Then the question becomes, if you wouldn't vote to join, then why would you ever tolerate staying one moment longer than you had to? Because you see, at that moment, it's not someone else taking away your right of self-government. That is you willingly giving it up. And that makes you ultimately responsible for reclaiming it. You see, friends, I'm here tonight 1 week after the launch of a petition campaign that will give you the vote, that will put the question on a ballot. Now, it won't be the ultimate ballot that we all get to vote for, but I think the people of Texas deserve an opportunity to at least be asked the question, don't you? Do we not have the right and at a minimum deserve to be able to debate and vote on this issue? I mean, if we think about it, over a majority of Texans support the issue, which means they obviously support having a vote on it. The dominant political party in the state of Texas has not one but two planks calling for a vote on the issue. The Libertarian Party has a plank. I mean, the only ones we're missing are the Democrats, and I'm not holding my breath because that would turn me blue, and we know that's not a good place for me. We deserve to be able to vote on the question. Now, the opposition will tell you that a vote on this issue is a waste of time because no one believes in this issue. The fact of the matter is they are scared to death because they know if it goes on a ballot, we don't just win, we win big. And it sends a message to the world that Texas will stand up for its right of self-government, and we will right our ship. We will step in and secure our border. We will step up and not have an inflationary currency. We will step up and take the mantle. And sure, there'll be bumps and bruises and scrapes along the way, but you know what? We're big boys and girls. If you want something done, you tell a Texan it can't be done. This is who we are. And we can pull out a globe and we can spin it around and we can put our finger on any landmass and realize that those people have figured it out, so can we. All we need is the vote. So here's what I'm going to ask you to do tonight. Before I wrap this and get ready for some Q&A, because that's where all the fun comes, I'm going to encourage you to do this. Whether you agree with Texas or not, whether you are absolutely 100% certain that this is the direction that we could go, I could tell by that sign you're a bit of a fan. Or whether you're unsure, or even whether you're against. I think we can all agree and should agree that it should go on a ballot. You have an opportunity to make that happen. The petition campaign we launched 1 week ago gives you the opportunity. with just shy under 100,000 signatures, we force it on the ballot in the Republican Party primary in March. And it becomes a game changer. You have an opportunity tonight to sign that petition. We have volunteers here. You can go to the table. Our volunteers are not known for being shy and bashful, so you will find them here. But sign it. You can actually sign it online. We got lawyers that made sure that could happen, which was kind of cool. We get to make history, and that makes me happy. But get with our volunteers, or pull out your phone and go to texitpetition.com and go sign. But the point here is, you're going to get an opportunity to vote on this issue. We need your help. This is always an arduous task for us when we launch these campaigns, whether it's getting resolutions passed at the county level in support of a Texit vote or getting it on an actual ballot in March of next year. Understand how this changes the game. Average voter turnout for independence referendums around the world is 85%. Not going to tell you that 85% of Texans are going to go show up to vote in the primaries on the Texit issue. But I'm going to tell you what will happen. If it goes on a ballot, I just heard myself reading the petition statement to someone. That was creepy. Never actually heard that before. It goes on the ballot, and we have candidates. We had over 100 candidates last cycle sign the Texas First Pledge, pledging to support your right to vote on the issue. You put this on the ballot, you may double voter turnout in the primaries. And those will be pro-Texit, pro-independence, pro-self-government voters. If you didn't like the way that the establishment behaved in this legislative session, if you believe that the state needs an enema from the state house to the schoolhouse, there is exactly one issue that brings that many people into the polls, and that's this issue. You help us get it across the finish line, and we'll get a chance to roto-rooter. And our governing policy in the Texas House will no longer be gavel, drink, gavel, repeat. Oh, I said that out loud, didn't I? Oh, but we're amongst friends. So as we get into Q&A, I just will remind you, ultimately the responsibility is on us. Study long, study wrong. Do your due diligence. I encourage you to go visit, as I said, visit with the volunteers outside. I literally wrote a book called Texit, Why and How Texas Will Leave the Union, that answers so many of these questions in a context in which they can be understood. You can go to our website at texitnow.org and find the 100 answers to the 100 most asked questions. All the information is there. And much like the True Texas Project, we are hated by all the right people. The Texas Tribune lies about us. That makes me happy. I wear it like a badge of honor. They love to drag out some desiccated old third-rate adjunct professor from Bug Tussle Community College to talk about how we're all guilty of treason. And if anyone would like to try that tonight, I would suggest you talk to State Representative Jeff Leach first and find out how much of a lawsuit that will actually get you. With that said, as we get into the questions, I'm going to leave you not with anything that I said, nothing I came up with, but in fact, the words of Sam Houston. Because it was Sam Houston who said this to the people of Texas after Texas joined the Union. Those that were upset, thinking that Texas could have made that 9 years much longer without having to beg for help from the United States or join the Union, which, by the way, it was a bad deal, but that's a conversation for another day. And this is what he said. He said that Texas will again lift its head and stand among the nations. Texas will again lift its head and stand among the nations. My friends, I believe that time is now. for us to avert our eyes from the ground to look to the horizon, to a future that we get to build for ourselves. And really and truly, the only question is, will you stand with her? I want to thank you for your time tonight. I really do appreciate each and every one of you. And now, we're going to do this, right?
Let's do it. Oh, okay.
Well, a little Q&A rules first. First off, is there a way I could get some water? Thank you very much. That was not rule number one. Rule number one is I will answer questions on any topic whatsoever, preferably related to this, but I have gotten some off-topic fun ones before. The second one is the more belligerent the question, the more belligerent the answer. It's symmetry. I'm of Greek descent, and we like those sorts of things. So, hey, thanks, Chris. Okay, who wants to go first?
Real quick, too, we're going to keep questions to 1 minute. We've got some timers here that will hold up their card when your minute's done. Make sure you're asking a question and not giving a speech, okay?
All questions must end in a question mark.
That's right. If you want to talk any further after we're done here in a little bit, you're welcome to talk with him more in the foyer, okay? Or send an email. That's right. All right. Yes, over here.
Well, I have a question about securing the border and the Texas border. So with Texas being independent, people want to say or have a question on how is Texas going to defend its border? And I want to ask, does Texas have its own framework currently to support that, like a department, like a military department?
Great question. So let me take the second part first because that's important. When you evaluate the viability of nation states, in other words, you look at criteria, and I'm going to sound like a ridiculous academic right now, but just get ready for it because this is what I do. One of the things you have to do is when you evaluate the viability of a path to independence for a section or for a potential nation state, the one thing that you do in the analysis is you look at the gap, right? You do this sort of gap analysis, not in the normal way people think of a gap analysis, but you take each aspect of what would be a self-governing independent nation, like defense and military is a key component of that. Currency is another one. But you take military and you say, okay, where we are and what would it take for us to get to that point of a self-governing independent nation? Understanding that not a single one of them have ever had it 100% at the moment they had the vote. That's just not the way that it works. The good news is the gap on that's pretty short. Now, I say that because it ties into your first answer. One of the things we do as an organization is we advocate for things that close that gap. Since 2012, we have advocated for a full militarization of the Texas State Guard, shifting all funding for the Texas Military Department to the State Guard, opening enlistment, and then ultimately deploying them to secure the southern border, effectively laying the groundwork for a turnkey military force the day that Texas goes full-on independent. Now, that doesn't happen the day after we have the Texas vote, but down the road, when we are fully independent, we have national defense already underway to start with. The reason the State Guard was chosen for that policy position is they are the one branch of the three branches of the Texas Military Department that cannot be federalized. So, okay. Is that a can of peas in your hand, sir?
Yeah.
Okay, just making sure I wasn't about to get hit.
Who actually owns the land that the military installations are currently on and the federal highway system, the freeways? Who owns that land?
Well, obviously when you talk about ownership of the land, so you've got the military bases, and depending on the facilities, for example, Fort Hood, because I refuse to refer to it by its new name for a while because I just don't like change that much. That is a federal military reservation. So regardless of the status of who actually owns those properties, I will tell you how it works from an international law perspective and the way it's worked around the world is that technically at the moment that the agreement is hashed out, all of that land reverts back to the sovereignty of Texas. So unless the federal government has contractually leased it from private individuals, if it's land that has been carved out, it reverts to whatever that entity is. A good example of that was right before the second independence referendum in Quebec. The night that they were getting ready to announce the election results, the Canadians flew all of their military equipment out of Quebec, because if it had passed the way that it was written, all of the ownership of that equipment would have immediately reverted to the Quebec government. So there are some things, obviously we're not looking at a situation where today it's this way and tomorrow it's a different thing. We're looking at Texas as a process, as we say. But that's one of the negotiated issues that'll have to be contended with. The interstate system is not going to be the biggest, and honestly, the military bases probably are not going to be that thorny of a negotiating position or issue anyway. Honestly, it'd be federal debt if I'm being honest. So, okay. Hey, we're blowing through these. That makes me happy.
Yeah, I'm just wondering about the popular vote on this. Is that a binding thing, or does the legislature have to take some action? I mean, what would be the actual mechanics of declaring Texas a republic again?
Yeah, it's a great question. So just to get the dictionary straight, because I poked fun at the progressives at the very beginning, we'll get the dictionary straight right out of the gate. So when we talk about Texas, we talk about Texas is the process from the very beginning of the forming of a political movement, eventually ending in Texas being a full, self-governing, independent nation, politically independent, culturally independent, economically independent, right? So that's the trajectory. The midpoint of that process is effectively a binding referendum on the issue. So people say, well, what does that mean, binding? Well, just so you understand, when people say binding and non-binding for independence referenda like this, there's no definition of what makes it binding or not, other than the fact if there is some action that must be taken because of the legislation that enables the referendum, right? So the bill that we have pursued, the Texas Independence Referendum Act, has the vote, and then it has something that we do after that, which is the committee that deals with the transitional issues: constitutional, statutory, international covenants, treaties, and agreements, and then finally the negotiated issues. Okay, so you've got that. But from a political perspective, it is absolutely binding, because at the moment that we have a vote, so we have legislation that goes to the Texas legislature that creates the vote. The people of Texas in a statewide referendum get to go answer the question, and the people of Texas speak. That constitutes a pure expression of political will. All Texans have been given an opportunity. So from a legal perspective, it is effectively binding. From a political perspective, it's effectively binding because of the stat that I gave you earlier. 85% voter turnout. At 60% where we are in the most conservative figures, that means you're going to put 8.6 to 9.2 million pro-Texas voters through those polls. The one thing that we have seen internationally on these independence referendums is pro-independence voters, when they vote independence, they don't go home until the job's done. They show up cycle after cycle after cycle. Bad news for the Brexit issue because of the way that their electoral system works, but good news for us because the timing for the referendum in our bill is quite simple. Legislature passes the bill. The vote would happen in November during the constitutional amendment election. Guess what happens 2 weeks after that vote comes out? Or 3 weeks, 2 3 weeks. That's when the filing window would open for new candidates. Any politician who stood between 8.6 and 9.2 million voters and publicly said they didn't want Texas to happen is going to suffer a bloodbath at the polls. When I say you want to change Texas from the state house to the schoolhouse, this is the issue that makes it happen. So it does become politically binding, and then we just kick off that process.
Yeah, it's Mr. Miller, right?
Well, my dad was Mr. Miller.
Well, thank you for being here. Two questions.
Okay.
One is, could just the threat of Texit help us get things that we want from the government, federal government, like a secure border, right? Even if you could just talk a little bit about that. The second part, though, if this really happened, we'd be taking out 38 electoral college votes. The United States of America would probably not have a Republican voted again. And so we'd be really basically saying sayonara, right? Because all of our friends in Alabama and Florida and all those red states are going to be wishing we didn't do this because they're going to be screwed.
Actually, let me take the last part of that first.
Okay.
Because
could I say, I'm sorry, I'm going to add a twist in, sorry.
That's okay, because I want to make sure we get to the question mark.
That being said, Democrats would love that to happen. So could it not be that there are actually going to be Democrats in the United States who would be pushing for Texit because they would be getting what they want, which is a completely controlled and forever blue United States?
Well, you would think that until you realize that there are blue states that have independence movements in them as well, and Cal-Exit being probably the largest among the blue states. Then you have people like New Hampshire with the Foundation for New Hampshire Independence that actually had a debate on the floor of their House last session on a bill to withdraw from the Union. So this issue really kind of trumps the partisan divide, and it's what we saw in those Survey USA numbers here in Texas. 76% Republicans, 54% Democrats, 52% Independents. I mean, that was the breakdowns. We saw similar numbers in other states as well. The dissatisfaction, and I know a lot of people like to talk about the national divorce and the red states and blue states, but the real dissatisfaction is not with that sort of partisan divide as much as it is that there is a federal mechanism of control that gives one side or the other control at any given point, or the appearance of control, but yet the federal government is out of control, right? So that is a lot of the motivation you see there. But that being said, let's go to your other part about those other states, okay? For us here in Texas, there's not a lot we can do about that, right? I mean, it's not, basically what that argument is that we should handcuff ourselves to all of these other people and then handcuff ourselves to the rail of the Titanic as the deck chairs are sliding off into the water. We need to exercise the option that we need to exercise, but here's the good news. As I said, Article 1, Section 10 does not forbid this to any state. In fact, the 10th Amendment, because of that, reserves it as a right to the states. So this is not something unique to Texas. This is why we're seeing independence movements start to blow up in other states as well. Now, what's great about that is every other state pretty much has the same path that we have to make it happen, except for, oddly enough, Nevada. Interesting quirk tonight. Nevada actually has an explicit prohibition in their state constitution for withdrawing from the Union, which has some interesting implications if you think about it, right? So the point here is, I don't know that those other states are really upset that we're leaving. Red states or blue states, for whatever their motivation is. I can tell you what I'm hearing from other states is they're wanting us to do this because they plan on being right on our heels. They want us to lead, to basically say to the federal government, you're not going to run us into the ground anymore. Your system is broken. It cannot be fixed in that system. And so what we'll do is we'll go out and we will do like 200 other countries around the world, become self-governing independent nations. And on the other side of that, we'll execute trade agreements, travel agreements, a mutual defense compact. We'll do all of these things that all these other countries do around the world. And we don't have to bend a knee to swampy politicians in a capital that doesn't belong to us. And here's the odd thing about that. The way that works out looks a lot more like the founders and framers' vision than what we're getting out of Washington, D.C. right now.
All right, we're going to take one more question, and then we're going to wrap it up.
Okay, so my question is, I think what a lot of people think about, but nobody said it here, is what stops the federal government from the day that we do this vote, the next day saying, sorry, it's unconstitutional, you cannot leave. I mean, we can take the vote, but, what makes any of us think that Washington, D.C. and the federal government is going to allow it to happen?
Well, how do they stop us?
Militarily.
Okay, so let's take that, because you have to understand, I have a very difficult time answering questions that sort of are nebulous what ifs. So I have to get really specific. So what is to stop that? What is to stop them militarily? I'll give you a couple of good reasons because we're almost out of time. But here's some things to bear in mind. Literally just had a conversation about the sentiment on this issue in other states. Part of the Survey USA poll was pretty clear that less than 10%, and I think it was down like 3 or 4%, whatever it was, very low, of states surveyed believe that any military action should be taken against a state that peacefully withdraws from the Union. So one of the things you're going to lack immediately, the federal government, if let's say that President Potato Head mistakes the go to war button for the order ice cream button, right? He swaps them out. Texas leaves, he wants ice cream, but he says go to war. So you end up in a scenario where other states are going to look at this. They're going to not view an act of popular will, right? Because remember, 85% of Texans would go to the polls and vote on this issue. The largest, and I always spit this word out, the largest democratic exercise in North American history, right, from this standpoint on the issue of independence, I mean, far more than what they had with Quebec. You've got this that plays out on a world stage. So now you have a superpower that won't shoot down a Chinese balloon, but will go bomb Walmart in Houston because grandma voted wrong. So how does that work when the last 60 to 75 years of American foreign policy have sent our grandfathers and our fathers, some of us in this room, and our sons and daughters off to fight, bleed, and die for the right of self-determination for other people? So the first thing you got is you have no popular support whatsoever from the rest of the United States to go shoot at us because we voted wrong. Because remember, we voted. We haven't done anything yet. We voted. But then what you have is you have the United States global alliance essentially shattered, because what they have done is the complete antithesis of everything they have done for the last 60 to 75 years. It turns them into international hypocrites. It exposes the federal government essentially for what they are as their political opportunists. But that said, to be able to effectively engage in a military campaign against the civilians in Texas, there are a lot of things you have to contend with. My suggestion is you reach out, if you want some more information on this, you reach out to us on the website. We have military officers, retired military officers, that have consulted on this issue for us. They've looked at it up one side and down the other, and the bottom line is that whatever the United States federal government decides to do to us, whether it's militarily, economically, if they decide to do that, there's not even any legally, but the point here is anything they try to do to stop this issue once the people have voted, it will be temporarily painful for us, but it will be terminal for them because they won't end up with any states by the time it's all over with, because some other states probably won't even bother putting it to a vote. They'll just issue a Declaration of Independence. And, so here's the deal. I got to worry about Texas, and I got to do what's right regardless of who it upsets. And that includes President Potato Head. Is that us? All right. Thank you all very much. I really do appreciate your time tonight.
Thank you. Yeah. Appreciate it. Again, Daniel will be in the back for any other questions. I think he has some information, and if you're interested in signing the petition, thank you all for coming tonight, and we'll see you all next month.